friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and I'm about 38.5 weeks pregnant now and ready to have this baby any minute. And so I thought I would show you my home birth kit we actually have right back here. This is our 7th child and our 5th home birth, so we've done this a few times, and I've learned to what I need in order to successfully birth a child at home, which actually isn't much. So I'll show you what I have planned. This box right here in this bowl contains everything I have prepared to give birth. So it's just sitting here waiting, and then when I go into labor, we'll start unpacking, and I will lay everything that's in this box over here on a table. So I'll go ahead and unpack it and show you what's inside. Okay, so I've unpacked everything that was in the box and laid it out on the table behind me, and that's generally what I do when I go into labor. As soon as I know for sure that it's the real deal, I let my husband know, obviously, and we call the midwife, and then he usually gets immediately to work cleaning bathrooms. That's his first job I give him, because when you have 6 kids that are age 12 and under, bathrooms can sometimes not be in perfect shape for company like the midwives coming over. And also, you know, for me, I sometimes do a lot of laboring in the shower, or might even end up giving birth up there in the bathroom, and so I want it to be completely sanitary and clean. So while Adam is up cleaning bathrooms, I unpack my things here, maybe grab a snack or get some things like that in order, and just sort of get prepared for what's to come. Let me show you what's on the table. Here's everything that was in the box, and I sort of divide it into things that I need to prepare the house that I'll start getting out, things for during the birth and immediately after, and the afterbirth, and then all of the necessities that I'll need once the baby's born, just to get me and the baby set up and comfortable to rest. Sitting here at the table, and I'll kind of go through the things one by one that I have packed that I use. So first of all, I always have a drop cloth. It's a plastic drop cloth that we will end up laying on the floor wherever I give birth, and that sort of catches any mess that might happen, because birth can be messy. And then, speaking of birth being messy, I have some of these Chuck's pads. I have some of the smaller blue ones, and then some of the larger, you know, pink size ones. And these I'll often mostly use after the birth, wherever I'm going to be sitting, but sometimes even during the birth. My water never really breaks until I'm pushing, but if it were to break before I pushed kind of earlier in the labor, I would use these to sit on the couch or kind of underneath wherever I was standing to keep from getting mess anywhere. And then I also have a couple of waterproof washable pads, and a lot of times these are what I use you know, to lay down on the bed when I'm relaxing after the birth and things. So those are the items that I use to catch all mess. And then, speaking of mess, my midwives have always requested that I have 2 garbage bags on hand, so I stick those in my birth kit so that I remember to have them. One is for any trash, and the other is generally for soiled towels or blankets or anything that would need washed, so that we can just collect it in the trash bag and then throw it in the washer immediately after the birth. Another thing I always have on hand is a flashlight with new batteries. I'm someone who likes it dark and very quiet while I'm laboring, and so I don't want, if I'm in a dark room, kind of in the zone, I don't want someone flipping on the light to come in and check on me, and so they'll often use the flashlight. It's also important for emergencies. If the power were to go out and we're in the middle of giving birth, we would want to have a flashlight handy just so everyone could see what was going on and take good care of me. So really, leading up to the birth, during labor, that's all I use. I do have a birth ball that's blown up and on hand, and it's in our family room, and we'll get that out. But generally, I don't like to sit during labor. I don't think I've ever sat down or lied down when I'm in active labor. I'm always up, walking around the house and moving, Sometimes I'll get down on my hands and knees and kind of rock around if I'm having a bad posterior labor, which 3 of mine have been that way. But sitting isn't something that really interests me. So the birth ball, it's here, but doesn't really get used. Then you can tell how useful these items have been in the past. I always order some gauze sponges for every birth, and as you can see, I've accumulated quite a few over the years because I don't think I've ever used them, but I have them on hand, and they're probably good to have in general for emergencies. And then the same with plastic gloves. I don't generally get internal exams during labor. Most of my births I've never needed one at all. So the gloves are for that in case I needed to be examined to check for dilation or effacement or anything. So I've accumulated quite a few pairs. I guess with this birth I could have a lot of exams if necessary. Then my midwife requests that I have some lubricant. This is for those exams. That makes that easier. So we have these little tubes of sterile surgical lubricant. And then she also has me order a suture kit. Most of these items I have bought from In His Hands Birth Supply, which I'll link down below after the video. And you can get basically anything you need for birth or prenatal care at that website. And that's where I got this. This is just some sterile alcohol prep pads and the sutures that my midwife would need to fix me up in case I were to tear during the birth. So we have those on hand. You always want to have a big bowl. This is for delivering the placenta. I'll just deliver it directly into this bowl. And then you keep a couple gallon-sized Ziploc bags in there. And that's where my midwife, after she inspects the placenta to make sure everything was healthy and in good shape, she'll put it in the bags, and then I can do what I want with it, which generally means I throw it in the freezer and we plant it under trees. Each child has a tree kind of in their honor. So keep that bowl on hand. You want to have a, what are these called? A bulb syringe. That's right. These are for after the baby is born. If the baby is mucousy or having a hard time breathing, you can suction them out. So we keep those. As you can see, I have a couple of those because I haven't needed to use them with a couple births, but still, they're good to have. You want to have a bottle of hydrogen peroxide and a bottle of alcohol. And these are not only for sanitizing equipment and keeping it clean during the birth, but this was helpful for getting out any stains on sheets or carpet or couches or anything immediately following the birth. This will help get those out. Okay, the next thing is one of my favorite things for immediately after giving birth. This is called After Ease, and it's an herbal tincture. And I don't know if you're like me and you have terrible after-birth pains. For me, starting around probably child 3 or 4, the birth pains almost started to get worse than the actual labor pains. They were so bad. But if I take a little bit of this After Ease tincture, it really helps. What I do is immediately after I deliver, I put it under my tongue and a couple drops, and then it'll help with the cramping. And then after that, anytime I go to nurse the baby, I put a few drops of this under my tongue before I go to nurse, and that will help with the pain when the baby latches on and those contractions begin. They're so awful. It's so painful. My midwife this time has provided me with an herbal after birth bath, and so I have that in my birth kit. This also came from inhishands.com, linked below. And I may try to, I've never done an afterbirth bath and haven't found it necessary, but I may try that this time. She also gave me some of these cold packs. You can freeze these, and if you did have some stitching or some pain after the birth, these will help relieve some of that. Another thing that's helpful is a peri bottle. You want this. This will help every time you need to use the restroom immediately following the birth. This will help with the pain and the stinging of urine if you have any tearing or stitches down there. Now, the rest of this stuff is sort of for getting you set up comfortably on the couch or in the bed immediately following the birth. In your birth kit for mom, you're going to want to have a pair of pajamas on hand and a nice nursing bra. And I recommend that you pick this out and put it in your birth kit prior to the birth so that you don't send your husband to get you some pajamas and have him come back with something that isn't what you want to wear. So just pick it out and have it on hand. And then I buy the mesh underwear that you can't, that usually you get in the hospital. You can buy those from the birth supply places. I like to wear these the first couple days just so I'm not ruining any of my own cloth underwear. These are disposable. And then you want to have your pack of pads handy so that once you get showered and cleaned up after the birth, you have everything you need to just get dressed and ready to go lay down on the couch and enjoy your baby. So then the baby needs its things. So I have all of this picked out and packed up in the birth kit beforehand. I get a couple of blankets, and I generally grab ones that aren't as nice, that could get a little yucky and goopy, because one of these will probably be thrown on the baby immediately before he or she has been cleaned up. So I have blankets. I have what I'm going to have the baby wear, a little gown and a little hat and some diapers. So I have those in the birth kit right along with my pajamas so that the baby and I can get dressed and comfortable and snuggle in. And then other than that, in my birth kit, I do keep a brand new digital thermometer. I want to make sure I have one that is working well, because following the birth, once my midwife leaves, something I'm responsible for is taking my temperature and the baby's temperature in the days that follow, just to make sure that there's no signs of infection and that we're okay. And so I always like to have a new one on hand, because you never know with the old ones. Sometimes they're not as reliable. So there you have it. That's all that I need to do to prepare on my end for the birth. Obviously, my midwife will come with her supplies. She'll have a Doppler to check heart tones and any sorts of medications or supplies that she needs to care for me in the event of an emergency. In the past, 2 of my babies, my girls, have been born in a birth pool, and we blew that up and filled it and had the liners and everything we needed for that. So that might be something you would need to add to your birth kit if you're planning on a water birth. Unfortunately, when we moved into this house, we realized after the birth of our 5th child that our water heater couldn't handle filling a tub of that size, and so we sort of have skipped the water birth since then. That's not something I necessarily prepare for. If I want hot water relief while I'm in labor, I just jump in the shower and spray the water on my back, and that seems to do a good enough job. So I guess that's it. We're all ready to have this baby. I'm going to pack all this back up and get it in the box, and then when the time comes here in the next couple days or weeks, I'll just grab it and unpack it like this, and then everybody can find what they need to care for me. So I hope you found this helpful if you're planning a home birth, and I look forward to talking to you again. Hopefully the next time I see you, I'm holding my new little baby. So God bless. Have a good day.